So there once was a maiden by the name of Albertinia in the land of Evian, a small island off the coast of Crete. Albertinia was considered an ugly maiden. She only had ink-black fur covering random patches of her skin. Her eyes were burning beady circles of yellow, while her mouth was a messy conglomeration of shark-like teeth. None of the men in the land wanted to go near her, for they feared that her ugliness would pass on to them like a plague. Women scorned her and children fled from her. She had no father or mother, as they had both killed themselves the day they saw her face. Albertinia, though ugly, had a kind soul and a loving spirit, though no one ever noticed that. In the middle of the night, whenever the weight of her loneliness fell upon her, she would sit by her loom and weave garments for herself. They were her only protection after all. As the years passed, Albertinia grew so despondent that she longed to take her life. One day, she heeded her parents' last words and jumped into a river to drown herself. But then she heard a voice from what she thought was a rock that said, "Do not kill yourself, for Hades would abandon his post if you went to his realm. But instead, go to Aphrodite's temple, where you must sacrifice your best dresses and a single drop of your blood to the goddess." Albertinia thanked the rock, got out of the river, and left to the temple of Aphrodite. As she stood in front of the grand marble, clutching her fine linens and silk, she wondered if the great goddess would take pity on such a despicable beast like her. She mustered up all her courage and made her way inside the temple. As she walked, crowds of worshippers mocked her ungainly gait and abundance of fur. A tear slipped down her cheek, and she felt an urge to turn back and hide in her home, where no mortal could see her. However, she decided to carry on and knelt in front of the altar, placing her beloved dresses onto the cool stone slab.
A small part of her winced at the sight of her woven garments, lying on the blackened marble, but she swallowed down the sickening feeling. This is for the best. A hooded priest handed her a silver dagger, and Albertinia glanced at him gratefully. He turned away in disgust. The dagger was ice in her frail fingers. Raising a shaking hand, she pressed the tip of the dagger to the side of her arm, till a single drop of blood formed. She let the blood drip onto the stone. The same priest returned with a torch and set her offerings ablaze. She then knelt in prayer and pleaded to the great goddess. "Oh, my queen, goddess of the myrtle tree, I plead to you as your humble servant. I do not wish for beauty, money, or fame. Nay, my queen, I do beseech you for love. You need not give me a handsome king, nor prince, nor priest. I simply plead to thee for happiness. Even a pet rock will do." Aphrodite glanced down from the heavens and saw the girl kneeling before her altar. Her heart was moved by the girl's earnesty and humility, that she decided to bless the girl with extraordinary beauty and a loving husband. She fashioned a Albertinia with a rock's named Dwayne, so that he would have a strong loyalty to his wife. Albertinia wept in happiness when she saw that all the goddess had done for her, and properly thanked her with a sacrifice and an offering. For the next 3 years were bliss for Albertinia. The women on the island no longer scorned her, and instead treated her as a dear friend. Her husband was always kind to her and loved her. However, as time passed, Albertinia grew more and more prideful. Soon she forgot that her beauty had been a divine gift, and that she had not been blessed from it from birth. As rumors of her otherworldly beauty spread, Zeus heard word of it and became curious. To hide from his wrathful wife, he turned himself into a swan to visit the girl. Albertinia, when she spotted the lovely white creature, immediately grew entranced by it. She approached it and offered it breadcrumbs. The swan then transformed into Zeus, and he professed his love for her. Albertinia paused to consider this, as she stared up at the magnificence of the god of the sky. A fleeting image of her husband crossed her mind. She thought about his twinkling eyes and beaming smile. Then she looked at Zeus, with his majestic beard and glowing skin. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So she decided to go with Zeus. A little while later, Albertinia became pregnant. Because she feared that her husband would grow angry, she convinced him that the child was his. When the child was born, she named him Asatius, after her late father. Zeus continued to visit her every day in the form of a swan.
Yep. But wait, there's more. One unfortunate day, Hera noticed that Zeus had frequently disappeared. She followed him one day and saw that her husband was with Albertinia. A bitter anger filled her heart, but out of the kindness of her heart, she decided to give the girl a chance. Perhaps it wasn't really Zeus, just as normal swan. She decided to see if the girl was worthy of punishment. She descended down onto earth the next day in the guise of a swan. Hera waddled up to Albertinia and squawked. Albertinia looked at her with loving eyes and moved to embrace her, saying, "Oh, my beloved Zeus." Hera screamed with rage, and her feathery form melted away in a flash of golden light to reveal her heavenly self. Albertinia turned and ran to her home, wailing in fear. Hera followed her, but before she could smite the mortal into dust, she saw Albertinia's husband returning home. A wicked idea came into her head, and she created a seed of jealousy and planted it into the husband's heart. The husband started throwing himself at every object within his sight, and Albertinia, who became jealous, started throwing herself to a random ugly stranger. At the end, their pride and impulsive behavior is what killed them. Albertinia and Zeus's son was all alone, so Aphrodite decided to give Satius to a smart guy who would raise him to be a smart child. In his wisdom, Satius created a special test that he named after himself. In the first test, he was last seen with sketchy youths who gave him special shoes made from Medusa and said that they would take him to sleep at Poseidon's mansion. There's a reference. Satius, overcome with emotion at his brilliant inventions, went to visit Poseidon's mansion to report on the news randomly for no reason. And as he fell asleep, but for some reason he could not understand and speak in real life, he started blabbing about ideas for AP classes. And people who put him to sleep thought this was a great idea to torture people. However, this spurged a new era of education. The youths became famous for their invention. Satius, jealous of them stealing his idea, somehow knew that they did, even though they were supposed to be asleep. Killed them all in their sleep. Athena, seeing this act, disapproved, but he was so smart, so she decided to stay him alive. The end.
Yeah.